Okay, so as we're thinking about William Faulkner's Nobel Prize acceptance speech, we want to think a little bit about what was going on at the time and how he accepted this award. So they awarded Faulkner the prize for literature for his powerful and artistically unique contribution to the modern American novel. In accepting this prize, Faulkner begins as audiences might expect, expressing his appreciation of the honor of being chosen to receive the award and promising to use the money awarded with the prize in an appropriate manner. Then he moves quickly to announce the purpose of his speech. He hopes to address his fellow writers. The audience soon learns that he is not pleased with the current state of literature. His purpose is to provide guidance for writers and to correct what he deems the problems in literature at the time. Okay, so the meat of his speech addresses writing and the role of the writer in society, and he expresses his views on what writers tend to write about as opposed to what they should be writing about. He asserts, or says, that writers have forgotten that the only subjects really worth writing about are problems of the human heart in conflict with itself. They have become distracted. All right, and so in page 363 in the text, you'll read in the second paragraph, notice that he's being very blunt about what he is saying. He's trying to grab the audience's attention. All right, so he says that they've stopped focusing on worthwhile issues, and he says that is because they are living in a permanent state of fear. They're the fear being blown up by the nuclear war. Remember, if you looked at what was going on historically at the time, the Cold War was what was going on. All right, and this has really paralyzed writers and kept them from addressing what Faulkner saw was critical issues. So then he goes on to give them some advice about dealing with the fear that he describes as general and universal. He does not want to advise them to ignore the fear or to reject it. What he does want them to do is to accept that being afraid is the most common, and he says basest, it means common, of experiences. Fear will always be present, and writers must set that fear aside and address other issues. He also talks about love versus lust. He suggests that writers cannot accept the existence of fear and move past it. And if that happens, they are destined to write works that are ephemeral and doomed. What he means is their stories will not stand the test of time.
Faulkner links writing that will not last to lust, and writing that will last to love. Let's look at what he means by that metaphor. Writing that is fleeting does not address universal truth. Writing that is fleeting is like lust, in that it is superficial and temporary. Writing that is fleeting touches the glands, which are relatively insignificant in comparison with the heart.
So that's a little bit about that. So
Faulkner links writing that will last to love. Faulkner believes writing that lasts addresses universal truths. Writing that lasts is like love in that it is genuine, deep, and lasting. Writing that lasts touches the heart, an organ that is critical to life. Only writers who get beyond fear can hope to focus on universal truths, matters of love, honor, pity, pride, compassion, and sacrifice.
So, not enduring but prevailing. So, as his speech continues, a remarkable shift occurs. Right, he moves from the generally pessimistic attitude of one who is not pleased with the other writers that have lost the nerve to focus on what he calls those universal truths, to a far more optimistic tone of one who declines to accept the end of man. He feels like this is temporary. In the second part of the speech, he draws an important distinction between enduring and prevailing. He insists that he believes that man will not only endure, but that he will also prevail. On page 364 in the text, you'll see this. So he's talking about enduring and prevailing. He says enduring is just merely surviving the fear and the dangers, but prevailing is overcoming those fears and dangers. The difference is that to prevail is to triumph. So he can consider what he says about the writer's role in contributing to the triumph of man. Notice that his words recall this language used earlier in the speech when he referred to the universal truths. He thinks it is the writer's job to lift the hearts of the people by reminding them about the wonderful qualities they are capable of, including courage, hope, pride, and sacrifice. So in this Nobel Prize acceptance speech, He is despairing at the state of the world in the aftermath of World War II and the fears of authors to write about what he feels is truly important. However, the selections that you have read in this unit and penned prior to the war do deal with problems of the human heart. So as you're reading those works, you want to kind of think about, are they speaking to Faulkner's universal truths? For example, Willa Cather, when she wrote a Wagner matinee, she put the universality of literature this way, and also in O Pioneers, and this is her novel about life in the Great Plains. So really focusing on that human experience, and we saw that actually in most of the short stories that we read for our modernism unit.